Have you ever found yourself a prisoner of a recurring thought, an image that never leaves your mind, as if that person or situation had taken root in your unconscious? Maybe it's a face that appears every time you close your eyes, a memory that insists on repeating itself in moments of silence, or an inexplicable feeling that becomes stronger the more you try to ignore it. It's like being trapped in an endless cycle, where your mind can't seem to break free, even when you know you should move on. But why does this happen? Why can someone's mental presence become so powerful that it invades our days, our nights, and even our dreams? Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychoanalyst, had a fascinating explanation for this. According to him, persistent thoughts about a person or situation are more than a mere chance or product of our will. They are deep reflections of what is hidden within us. When we focus our attention on someone so intensely, it's as if we're looking into a mirror, not an ordinary mirror, but one that reflects parts of ourselves that we can't yet recognize or accept. Imagine a simple scene. You meet someone and suddenly feel inexplicably attracted to them, not necessarily in a romantic way, but as if she carries something you need. This feeling can be so intense that it dominates your thoughts. According to Jung, this does not happen because the person is special in themselves, but because they awaken in you aspects of your own personality that are dormant or repressed. He called it projection. In this psychological mechanism, we transfer to others qualities that belong to ourselves, but that for some reason we cannot see within ourselves. A classic example is someone who idealizes a strong and confident figure, believing that this person is the answer to all their problems. In fact, this admired strength is something that already exists within the admirer, but that he has not allowed himself to develop. Obsession with this figure is, in reality, an unconscious attempt to reconnect with your own inner strength. The problem is that until we recognize this, we remain trapped in the illusion that it is the other person who has what we lack. And it's not just projection that explains these obsessive thoughts. Jung also developed the concepts of anima and animus, which represent the feminine and masculine archetypes present in all of us. In men, the anima is the embodiment of the feminine, sensitivity, intuition, and the ability to connect emotionally. In women, the animus is the masculine archetype, logic, strength, and determination. When we feel intensely attracted to someone, it may be that that person is reflecting our anima or animus as a reminder of what we need to integrate into our psyche. That's why we often find ourselves fascinated by characteristics that we think are absent in ourselves, but that are actually just waiting to be discovered. These insistent thoughts could also be signals from our unconscious, using a subtle but powerful method to get our attention. Jung believed that the unconscious communicates through symbols, images, and experiences that at first glance seem disconnected. He called this phenomenon synchronicity, significant coincidences that, despite having no obvious causal relationship, have a deep subjective meaning. For example, think about a time when you were thinking intensely about someone and suddenly you ran into that person or received a message from them. These moments may seem like simple coincidences, but for Jung, they are valuable clues that something deeper is happening. It is as if the universe is orchestrating these encounters to lead us to a greater understanding of ourselves. Let's imagine another scene. A woman repeatedly dreams about an old love she hasn't seen in years. In the dream, he leads her to a secret garden where there is a broken mirror. Upon awakening, she feels an uncontrollable desire to find him. But when she finally does, she realizes that he is no longer as she remembered. Confused, she seeks therapeutic help and discovers that the mirror in the dream represents her own fragmented identity. The old love was just a symbol, a projected figure that reflected the pieces of herself she needed to integrate. This type of narrative, which seems like something out of a short story, is exactly the type of story that Jung explored in his clinical practice, showing how the unconscious uses people and situations to guide us towards self-knowledge. What makes all of this even more intriguing is how these phenomena are not limited to isolated cases. Think about how many times you've heard someone say, "I can't stop thinking about that person," or "something feels like it's pulling me toward them." These stories are universal, crossing cultures and eras. Jung believed this happens because we all share a collective unconscious, a common reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes that shape our human experiences. Thus, obsession with someone is not just a personal drama, but a reflection of a larger dynamic, deeply rooted in the human psyche. Still, even with all these fascinating explanations, the experience of not being able to stop thinking about someone is, above all, emotionally exhausting. It's as if our mind is constantly testing us, taking us to places we would rather avoid. But what if, instead of resisting, we decided to explore what these thoughts are trying to tell us? What if, instead of looking to others for answers, we started asking ourselves, what does this reveal about me? When we find ourselves stuck in recurring thoughts about someone, the initial feeling is discomfort. It seems that the mind becomes hostage to something or someone that exerts an invisible power over us. This obsession can seem like an enemy, a blockage that prevents us from living fully. But from another perspective, it can be seen as a sign of personal growth, a subtle message from the unconscious, that there is something inside us crying out for attention. This idea, defended by Jung, completely changes the way we look at these feelings. What once felt like a mental prison can now become the beginning of a journey of self-discovery. Obsession does not happen by chance. It is often related to a quality that we see in the other person, but that we have not yet identified or developed in ourselves. For example, imagine someone who can't stop thinking about a seemingly self-confident and charismatic person. This fascination can be interpreted as a reflection of the desire to find these characteristics within oneself. It is as if the presence of the other person serves as a mirror, highlighting something that needs to be worked on internally. Jung called this the process of individuation, the quest to integrate the undeveloped or repressed parts of our psyche to become whole. These feelings also help us identify patterns of behavior that we may never have noticed. Think of someone who constantly repeats relationships where they idealize the other and then feel profound disappointment. Obsession may be a call to look more closely at this pattern. Is there a hidden fear of facing loneliness, or perhaps a difficulty in recognizing one's own worth without external validation? When we use obsession as a lens to examine our actions and reactions, we begin to uncover layers of ourselves that were previously hidden. Additionally, obsession can teach us about our own wants and needs. Often, when we focus our attention on someone, we project qualities that we would like to have onto them. Imagine a person who, in a moment of vulnerability, clings to the idea that someone strong and stable can save them. This obsession isn't just about the other person. It reveals the desire for security and stability that may need to be cultivated internally. Obsession, in this case, is a guide that points to what we need to develop to feel complete. An interesting point is that these feelings can also connect us with parts of our essence that were dormant. Jung believed that the human psyche seeks balance. When we are excessively focused on logic and rationality, our intuition and emotions try to emerge. Obsession may be the unconscious's way of reminding us that we are neglecting something essential. For example, a person who is highly focused on career and practical responsibilities may find themselves obsessed with someone who symbolizes lightness and creativity. This obsession does not necessarily mean that the other is the answer, but rather that these qualities need to be rescued in your own life. These internal connections often go unnoticed until a seemingly banal event brings them to the surface. Imagine someone who, when reviewing an old photo, is overcome by a wave of nostalgia and starts thinking obsessively about an ex-partner. This episode, in fact, may be less related to the person themselves and more to the moment in life that they represent. perhaps a phase where there was more lightness, or where dreams seemed more alive. In this sense, obsession works as a portal for us to revisit not only the other person, but also who we were at that time. And in doing so, we can rediscover valuable aspects of ourselves that we left behind. Another transformative element of obsession is the awareness that it can connect us with our own emotional patterns. When we allow ourselves to observe these thoughts without judging them, they stop being a burden and become a tool. Think about how obsession with someone can and reveal a need for external validation or to resolve unresolved issues from the past. Jung would say that these obsessions are like pieces of a puzzle. By putting them together, we discover a clearer portrait of who we really are. Obsession, although uncomfortable, is an invitation. She challenges us to look within, to explore unknown territories of our psyche, and to find a balance between what we project onto others and what we need to recognize in ourselves. It is a journey that, although not easy, takes us to a deeper level of self-understanding. And in the end, perhaps we will discover that what we seek so much in others has always been within us, waiting to be rescued. But how then can we deal with these feelings in a practical way? The answer lies in learning to recognize, accept, and transform these emotions into something that strengthens us. When obsession with someone takes over our thoughts, it's natural to feel helpless, as if we were at the mercy of a force we can't control. But there are ways to deal with this experience, ways to transform it into an opportunity for personal growth and emotional liberation. The first step is to recognize the feelings that are present. It seems simple, but we often resist this recognition, preferring to distract ourselves or minimize what we are feeling. However, running away only prolongs the suffering. Face it, you're obsessed with someone, and that's okay. There is no shame in admitting this. Accepting these feelings is the second step, and herein lies a crucial part of the process. Acceptance does not mean resigning yourself or allowing obsession to dominate your life, but rather accepting what you feel without judgment. Remember that emotions, no matter how intense they are, do not define who you are. They are fleeting, like clouds that cross the sky. When you stop resisting what you feel, you create space to understand why those feelings exist and what they are trying to tell you. Expressing what's inside you is a powerful tool for relieving emotional weight. Write about your thoughts in a journal, or even in a letter that you will never send. Writing has the power to organize internal chaos and bring clarity. If you prefer, share your feelings with a trusted friend or therapist. The important thing is to get these thoughts out of you, giving them a concrete form and allowing you to observe them with more detachment. Working on your own internal issues is an essential step in dealing with obsession. Ask yourself, what does this person represent to me? What qualities or feelings do I believe she will bring into my life? Often, the obsession isn't really about the other person, but about what they symbolize: security, affection, validation, or something you feel is lacking in yourself. By identifying these gaps, you can begin to fill them consciously without depending on someone external to do so. Sometimes the best course of action is to physically and emotionally distance yourself from the person in question. This doesn't mean cutting ties abruptly or creating resentment, but rather establishing healthy boundaries that protect your well-being. This may involve reducing contact or avoiding situations that further fuel the obsession. This distance gives you the space you need to refocus your energy and attention on yourself without the constant distractions that perpetuate the obsessive cycle. Finding new sources of satisfaction is another transformative step. When you engage in hobbies, creative projects, or activities that promote well-being, such as exercising or meditating, you are investing in yourself. These practices not only distract your mind, but they also help build a sense of fulfillment that doesn't depend on anyone but you. The goal here is not just to occupy time, but to nourish your soul with experiences that bring meaning. Obsession can also be tackled with small mindfulness practices, which help bring your attention to the present moment. When you notice that thoughts about this person are taking over your mind, pause for a moment. Breathe deeply and observe your thoughts as if they were waves on the sea, coming, rising, and dissipating. You don't need to cling to them, nor fight against them. This simple practice can help break the cycle of rumination and bring more clarity to your emotions. Dealing with obsession is not a linear process. There will be days when you feel stronger, able to redirect your energy, and others when the thoughts come back with a vengeance. And that's okay. The key is to persist, to remember that you are in control of your path, even if progress seems slow. Every little step counts. But when dealing with these emotions, it is important to notice when the obsession begins to overtake, imitates, and interfere in your life in a deeper way. When it becomes a bigger problem, it's time to seek help and specific strategies to regain balance. The next step will take us to understand how to identify these signs and what to do when the weight of obsession seems too great to bear alone. Although obsession with someone may, at times, seem harmless or even natural, it can turn into a serious problem when it begins to interfere with the normal course of your life. Thinking about someone occasionally is normal, but when these thoughts dominate your actions, your emotions, and even the way you relate to the world, it is a sign that something is not balanced. And recognizing this, even if it's uncomfortable, is the first step to taking back control. The most evident impact comes in the routine. When you notice that the obsession is affecting your productivity at work, your ability to have meaningful conversations, or even take care of the most basic needs like eating or sleeping, it's a clear indication that it's exceeding healthy limits. Think, for example, of a situation where every notification on your cell phone brings the hope that it is that person. Or worse, the lack of messages triggers a spiral of anxiety and sadness. These patterns can become exhausting, draining your emotional and mental energy. Plus, when obsession starts to negatively affect your mental health, it's time to pay attention. You may notice that you are constantly anxious, have abrupt mood changes, or even experience signs of depression. Sometimes, the obsession creates such an intense emotional dependency that you feel like you can no longer function without that person's validation or presence. This can generate a cycle of self-sabotage, where you isolate yourself from friends and family, stop investing in yourself, and start living according to an idealization. In more extreme cases, obsession can become dangerous, both for you and for the other person. Behaviors such as obsessively monitoring social media, sending repeated messages, or trying to control someone else's life are signs that a line has been crossed. It's important to remember that this not only hurts your emotional health, but it can also cause discomfort or even harm to the other person. Obsession, in these cases, stops being an internal symptom and manifests itself as an external problem that needs to be treated urgently. Jung pointed out that these moments of extreme emotional imbalance are generally reflections of a deep internal disconnection. When we are completely wrapped up in someone else's image, we are actually moving further and further away from ourselves. The other becomes a distraction that prevents you from facing unresolved internal issues. The danger is that, without realizing it, we can become trapped in this cycle where obsession not only masks our wounds, but deepens them. It is essential to know how to identify when these signs begin to appear. Pay attention to how the obsession is shaping your daily decisions and actions. Are you avoiding social events for fear of losing a connection? Are you neglecting important responsibilities because your mind is always busy? These are indications that the obsession is no longer a passing emotion and has become something that is compromising your emotional and practical freedom. Recognizing that obsession has become a problem is not a sign of weakness, but of courage. It's the moment when you decide to look at yourself and say, "I need help," and that's completely normal. Seeking support, whether from friends, family, or mental health professionals, is a crucial step in breaking this cycle. Obsession may seem overwhelming, but it's never too late to take back control. The next step is to understand how to seek this support in a practical and effective way. After all, there are tools and resources available that can help transform what seems like an insurmountable barrier into an opportunity for healing and renewal. It is at this point that the true journey of emotional reconstruction begins, and it will be the focus of the next part. When an obsession with someone becomes unsustainable, the path to overcoming this feeling can seem dark and lonely. But as with any healing journey, seeking help is an act of courage and self-compassion. Recognizing that you don't have to face this alone is the first step in turning the obsession into something manageable and, eventually, an opportunity for self-discovery. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to seek help is to start with a conversation. Sharing your feelings with a close friend or trusted family member can bring immediate relief. Talking about what you're feeling not only allows you to organize your thoughts, but it also opens up space for someone else to bring different perspectives. Sometimes, obsession involves us in tunnel vision, where we can only see the person or situation that occupies our mind. An external look can help break this pattern. However, friends or family are not always able to offer the necessary support. In these cases, seeking help from a therapist is essential. A mental health professional can guide you through a deeper process of understanding the reasons behind the obsession. For example, in therapy, you might explore questions like, "What does this person really mean to me?" Or, "What unmet needs are being projected into this relationship?" Jung believed that understanding the symbols and patterns that emerge from our emotions is the key to integrating what is repressed and achieving balance. A therapist can help illuminate these hidden aspects of your psyche. In addition to individual therapy, support groups can also be extremely valuable. Sharing experiences with people facing similar challenges creates a sense of belonging and validation. Knowing that others have been or are going through similar situations can ease the burden of isolation and help you find strategies that have worked for others. In environments like this, you feel heard, understood, and most importantly, less alone. Another important resource is to search for information and tools that can support your journey. There are books, podcasts, and even online courses that explore topics such as self-esteem, emotional health, and the impact of human relationships on our psyche. Jung, for example, dedicated his life to understanding how the unconscious shapes our experiences. His work offers profound insights into how our obsessions can be opportunities to explore and integrate repressed parts of ourselves. By engaging with educational materials, you begin to see the obsession in a new light, not as a burden, but as a learning opportunity. In cases where the obsession is already seriously affecting your mental health or your relationships, it may be necessary to seek medical support. Psychiatrists and other healthcare professionals can help assess whether some type of intervention, such as medication, might be helpful in conjunction with therapy. It is important to remember that taking care of your mental health is not a weakness, but a demonstration of strength and self-care. Additionally, cultivating a broader support network of friends, family, therapists, and other meaningful connections creates an environment where you feel safer facing challenges. When obsession consumes us, the feeling of being alone can intensify the emotional toll. Building and strengthening healthy relationships around you helps neutralize this feeling and redirect your energy towards interactions that bring balance. Finally, seeking help is an act of hope. It's the choice to believe that obsession doesn't define who you are, but is just a temporary chapter in your journey. Help is always available, whether in a simple conversation or a more structured therapeutic process. And by accepting this support, you begin the path to reconnecting with yourself more fully and authentically. Now that we understand where to seek help, the question becomes, how can we avoid falling into this obsessive cycle again? Is there a way to build such a solid emotional foundation that it prevents these future fixations? This is what we will explore next. Preventing obsession with someone is not just about avoiding future fixations, is to build a solid emotional foundation that allows for a more balanced and autonomous life. This requires continuous attention to fundamental aspects of your relationship with yourself, with others, and with the world around you. Although this process takes effort, it is incredibly rewarding because it not only reduces your vulnerability to obsession, but also transforms your perception of self-worth and meaning in life. It all starts with self-esteem. The way you see yourself defines the quality of the connections you build. When your self-esteem is solid, you don't feel the need to constantly seek validation from other people. But if there is a gap in this aspect, you may end up projecting the responsibility for filling internal voids onto others. Working on self-esteem means learning to recognize your value, regardless of external factors. This can be done through daily reflections, such as reminding yourself of your achievements and qualities, or even listing them in a diary. Little by little, you begin to internalize the idea that you deserve love and respect simply because of who you are. Cultivating healthy relationships is another fundamental pillar. Balanced relationships are built on a foundation of mutual respect, open communication, and clear boundaries. When you learn to connect with others genuinely without depending on them for your own happiness, you avoid falling into the trap of idealization or obsession. Healthy relationships are not built on the idea of completing someone, but of sharing experiences and supporting mutual growth. By surrounding yourself with people who truly care about you, you reduce the need to seek this out in relationships that could become toxic or disproportionate. Another powerful way to prevent obsessions is to find hobbies and interests that spark your passion and involvement. Having meaningful activities in your routine creates a sense of purpose and accomplishment that depends on no one but you. It can be anything that sparks your curiosity or connects you to something bigger, playing a sport, learning an instrument, cooking, painting, or even volunteering for a cause you value. These activities fill your life with moments of joy and satisfaction, which lessens the space for obsessive thoughts about other people. Practicing mindfulness and meditation also plays a crucial role in preventing obsession. These tools help bring your attention to the present moment, reducing the tendency to ruminate about the past or fantasize about the future. Mindfulness can be as simple as paying attention to your own body and breathing for a few minutes a day. This focus on the present teaches you to observe your thoughts without identifying with them, developing a greater awareness of how your emotions arise and how you can deal with them in a healthy way. Part of the process also involves learning to identify and respect your own limits. When you know how far you can go in a relationship or interaction, you avoid getting into situations where obsession can arise. It's important to be honest with yourself about what you want and need in your connections. This includes being able to say no when necessary, without guilt or fear of rejection. Respecting your own boundaries is not only an act of self-compassion, but also a way to educate others about how you want to be treated. Ultimately, living a present-centered life is a powerful antidote to obsession. When you are completely present in each moment, enjoying the little things in everyday life, you don't feel the need to constantly look to something outside of yourself to fill emotional gaps. Living in the present does not mean ignoring the past or the future, but finding beauty and meaning in the here and now. This practice creates a deeper connection with yourself, bringing serenity and balance. Preventing obsession is, in essence, an act of continually and consciously taking care of yourself. By strengthening your self-esteem, cultivating healthy relationships, finding meaningful activities, and practicing mindfulness, you build a solid foundation that not only prevents future fixations, but also enriches your life in a holistic way. And along this path, you will discover that it is possible to live with more freedom, autonomy, and connection with who you really are. But to achieve a truly full and meaningful life, you need to go beyond avoidance and explore how to create a deep purpose, something that supports your emotional and spiritual growth. This will be our next journey. Living a full and meaningful life is the desire of many, but we rarely stop to reflect on what that really means. In essence, this quest is not about achieving external goals, such as professional success or social recognition, but rather about finding purpose and authenticity. It is a process of connecting with yourself and what truly matters, where each step taken is a reflection of what you value and believe. The starting point for this journey is learning to love yourself. Often, obsession with another person arises from a feeling of incompleteness, as if we need someone to make us feel valuable or happy. But self-love does not depend on external factors. It is built when you recognize your qualities, accept your imperfections, and understand that you are enough exactly as you are. Loving yourself means treating yourself kindly in difficult times, celebrating your achievements, no matter how small they may seem, and being patient with your growth process. It's understanding that you deserve care and respect, even on the days when you feel like you failed. Cultivating healthy relationships is the next step. Deep and authentic relationships are built on the foundation of reciprocity and mutual respect. This doesn't mean avoiding conflict or striving for perfection, but rather learning to communicate honestly and set clear limits. Healthy relationships don't drain your energy, they renew it. These are connections that respect your individuality and at the same time celebrate the presence of the other. When you create bonds based on truth and genuine affection, you experience what it's like to be truly connected to another person, without the need to idealize them or depend on them to feel whole. Furthermore, finding purpose is one of the most powerful ways to build a meaningful life. Purpose doesn't have to be something grand or extravagant. It can be found in the little things that give meaning to your day. Maybe it's contributing to other people's lives, creating something beautiful, continually learning, or simply living according to your values. Purpose is what moves you, what makes you get up in the morning with a feeling of direction. When you find something worth fighting for or dedicating yourself to, the distractions of obsession lose space, and your energy is channeled into something that truly matters. Practicing presence is another essential key. Often we get stuck in the past or anxious about the future, ignoring the only moment that really exists, now. Living in the present means being completely immersed in each experience, be it a meeting with a friend, a meal, or a simple walk outdoors. This practice not only reduces stress, but also awakens a sense of gratitude for the little things that make life special. By living in the now, you discover that you don't need to look for happiness in someone else or in a future event. It's accessible right here, right now. Building a fulfilling life also requires courage to face your internal fears and challenges. We often avoid introspection because we fear what might happen. Let's find it. But it is in confronting our shadows that we find the path to true freedom. As Jung said, what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. Facing your pain, insecurities, and limitations is what will allow you to grow and become stronger. This process is not easy, but it is essential to living authentically. Ultimately, living meaningfully is an ongoing act of choice. Every day you decide what you value, where you invest your energy, and how you respond to challenges that arise. This choice won't always be perfect, and that's okay. The important thing is to stay committed to what makes sense for you, even in times of uncertainty. As you walk this path, you will realize that fulfillment does not come from outside, but is born within you. It's the result of taking care of yourself, building true connections, finding purpose in what you do, and living with presence and courage. And when you achieve this form of internal balance, it becomes easier to deal with emotional challenges, including obsession. Now, only one question remains. How can we apply all of this to completely transform our relationship with obsession and, ultimately, with ourselves? This will be the end of our journey. Obsession with someone, although painful and often confusing, is not the end of the story. It is just a chapter, a starting point for a deeper transformation. When understood and worked on, this experience can become a powerful opportunity for self-knowledge, growth, and reconstruction. And at the end of this journey, what we find is not just freedom from obsession, but the discovery of a richer, fuller, and more authentic life. Accepting that obsession is a part of the process, not a deviation, is the first step towards this transformation. It shows us, often in an intense way, what is missing in us or what we are afraid to face. When we direct our attention to understanding what is really behind these feelings, we begin to untie the knots that tie us to a person or an idea. This work requires courage, but it is in this effort that we discover our inner strength. Overcoming obsession is not about forgetting or erasing the other from your memory. It's about transforming the relationship we have with these thoughts and emotions. This means learning to look at the person or situation honestly, recognizing both the positive and negative aspects without idealizations or illusions. As Jung said, the totality is composed of light and shadow. Seeing others as they really are helps us realize that what we seek in them, security, love, acceptance, already exists within us, even if we need to cultivate it. The next step is to take responsibility for your own happiness. Obsession often makes us believe that the solution to our problems lies in someone else. But along this journey, it becomes clear that real change begins within us. You can't control someone else's actions or feelings, but you can choose how you respond to them. You can choose to invest in yourself, strengthen your self-esteem, cultivate new interests, and create a life that is fulfilling in its own right. This is how you free yourself from the weight of depending emotionally on someone. The overcoming process also involves compassion towards yourself. There are no shortcuts to dealing with obsession, and that's okay. Allow yourself to make mistakes, feel and start over as many times as necessary. Every step taken, no matter how small it may seem, is an advancement towards a stronger and more aware version of yourself. It's not about eliminating pain once and for all, but about learning to carry it more lightly, transforming it into learning and growth. And finally, living a full, meaningful life is the most powerful antidote to obsession. When you are connected to your purpose, surrounded by healthy relationships, and filled with the present moment, the need to fixate on someone else disappears. This does not mean that you will never have emotional challenges again, but that you will have the tools and resilience to face them in a balanced way. Obsession, when seen through the eyes of growth, is an invitation. She challenges us to explore our depths, to integrate what has been repressed, and to find fulfillment within ourselves. It's a reminder that no matter how difficult the journey, there is something to be discovered and celebrated at every step of the way. If you've made it this far, know that you've already taken the first big step, seeking understanding and change. From here, transformation is your choice. Continue dedicating yourself to your growth, to building a life that is truly yours. And above all, remember, emotional freedom is not about running away from what we feel, but about facing, understanding, and transforming these emotions. This is the path to a fulfilling life, and it starts now.